Hello and welcome to The Agenda on Dominion Brokers Group. I'm Chike Obogu. On the agenda this morning, two major issues. We'll be looking at this first. The World Bank on Monday revealed that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited is remitting only 50% of the gains generated from the removal of petrol subsidies to the Federation account. In its latest Nigerian Development Update report released, the global institution said NNPC started transferring the revenue gains to the Federation account only in January. Since then, it has been remitting only 50% of these gains, using the rest to offset past arrears. President Bola Tinubu announced the removal of costly petrol subsidies shortly after he was sworn in 2023. The president said the decision was part of efforts to grow the economy for national development. Since the pronouncement, many Nigerians have expressed concerns about the opacity in the management of the subsidy gains. In the report, the World Bank noted that for the nation to consolidate on gains of economic reforms, it is essential to ensure that the full revenue gains from the removal of the PMS subsidy, estimated at about 2.6% of GDP in 2024, are transferred to the Federation. Quoting, it says, despite the subsidy being fully removed in October 2024, NNPCL started transferring the revenue gains to the Federation only in January 2025. Since then, it has been remitting only 50% of these gains, using the rest to offset past arrears. Joining me this morning to discuss this issue is Dominion Brokers Group in-house analyst, Dolapo Charles Anjorin. Dolapo, it's good to have you in the studio this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chike. It's my pleasure to be here once again.
All right, we're looking straight at this issue according to the report by the Nigerian Development Update, where it says subsidies were fully removed in October 2024, and then you have November, December, and then January, NNPC started remitting funds to the Federation account. However, what was remitted to the Federation account was just only 50% of the gains. So does that show that Nigerians are justified talking about the infidelity of the NNPCL when it comes to financial activities?
Yes, Nigerians are actually spot on when they say that the NNPC is actually opaque, in their dealings when it comes to financial transactions. I think this has been a recurring decimal for quite some time right now. If my memory serves me right, I can remember in 2015, you had these, we had this controversy as to whether the NNPC remitted money into the Federation account. That was when the former CBN governor, Sule Lamido, now the latest, the emir,
Sanusi.
Yes, Sanusi Lamido, rather. Yeah. Yes, said the NNPC failed to remit over $20 billion, into the Federation accounts. And there were counterclaims between Sanusi Lamido and the Minister of Finance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. It took Pricewaterhouse, International, to actually do a forensic audit on the NNPC account. And at the end of the day, it was found out that about $1.35 billion is the amount that was not actually remitted into the Federation account. Then fast forward back to the President Muhammadu Buhari era administration. The NNPC, also failed to reimburse the Federation account, and that was what led to the ways and means that the then administration took as an overdraft from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now we are having this again, the NNPC just remitting 50% of subsidy into the Federation account. So like I said, you can see it's a recurring decimal on the part of NNPC. Same thing happened in the gas sector also, and I think the Minister of Finance right now needs to call for the forensic audit, you know, of the account of NNPC. Let us see whether oil royalties were not properly calculated. Something must be wrong somewhere for NNPC not to have, you know, remit 100% subsidy into the appropriate account they were supposed to, you know, remit the money into.
Well, this has made the Nigerian purse bleed so much, and then the ripple effect, does it have any thing to do with the masses?
Yes, it has a lot of things to do with the masses. All because right. You look at the appropriation budget for 2025, that's the most expensive budget in the history of Nigeria, about 54 trillion naira. You have the crude oil that has been benchmarked for $75 per barrel. The price of crude oil in international market, you know, has dropped down to below $50 per barrel. So where is the funding? Where is the funding going to come from? We are not ramping up production. At the moment, we are doing 1.9 million barrels per day. So when you do the calculation, how are we going to fund the 2025 budget if the NNPC are finding it difficult to remit 100% subsidy that was removed from Mass Petroleum subsidy into the Federation account? So it looks like you have a budget of 10 naira, and you want to buy a shoe of 5 naira, and you find out that your budget has actually been cut down to 7 naira. So it means, you know, where are you going to get the deficit from? We're already operating a deficit budget. There's a deficit of 13 trillion naira. So it has a lot to do with the masses. So it means that government will not be able to carry out this budgetary obligation as planned in the appropriation budget. You're
talking about the budget. You see, it's so interesting that year in, year out, Nigeria, the federal government budgets so much for the economy, for the country itself, the national budget. However, there has not been a time the federal government has come out to give us the performance of the budget. So most times we don't know even if the budget performed well, if there is a budget surplus or a budget deficit year in, year out.
Of course, there's always a budget deficit year in, year out. I can't remember the last time we had a budget surplus. And I think for the midterm performance expenditure reports, framework, I think they do give it, but it is not always to term. There's no consistency, you know, as to when they give the performance report. So the whole budgetary sector needs a total reform.
Well, you see, what I mean here is every year an agency, ministry or department will budget, say, 5 naira for its budget. Next year, 5 naira. Some other years, 20 naira.
Okay.
So how do we know if they actually, you know, executed everything that was budgeted for? You know, there's no transparency. Why I'm saying this is, it's not only from the NNPC.
Yes.
Now, we have other ministries, departments, and agencies yes, that are also, you know, swimming in this ocean of corruption.
Yes, and if you call it alleged, okay, let us
of course it is, because how can you not, okay, the funds that were not remitted from the NNPC from October 2024 to January 2025. Now, what happens to those monies? Remember, some managing directors of some refineries, these 3 major refineries, were relieved of their jobs. And then in one of them, in one of the accounts of one of them, of the managing director,
they found about 80 billion naira or
was found inside the account. So is this a round-tripping thing? Is there a cartel that is you know, holding Nigerians to ransom? Because these monies would have been used for the development, either human or capital development of the country.
Well, it is yet to be proven whether the money that was found inside that account is actually money meant for remittance, subsidy remittance. So I don't want to be so I don't want to make a categorical statement on that. I will leave that for, you know, the EFCC to determine that, but so that we don't just make baseless claims on here. So as regards MDAs, agencies of government who do not remit funds, you know, back into the coffers of government, I think it also boils down to accountability, lack of transparency, lack of accountability, lack of budgetary framework. You know, there's nobody to actually answer the tough questions. Why have you not been able to remit, you know, the funds for a particular appropriation here back to the coffers of the government? If you have not been able to do that, what are the consequences? You know, Nigeria is a state of anyhowness, where anyhowness, you know, is just at the top. You just do whatever you like. There are certain laws that will protect certain individuals, and that's why I was talking about, you know, absolute transparency. The institutions are actually weak, you know, to checkmate some of these heinous and irregular acts, you know, going on in some of these ministries. Just like you said, it's not limited to NNPC. Some ministries, some agencies, government agencies, departments are actually culpable in these acts also.
Well, still with the NNPC, we move on to this other issue. Contrary to insinuations that Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited had halted the exploration of crude oil in the northern part of Nigeria, the new group chief executive officer of the company, Bayo Ojulari, said the project will continue in June. Ojulari said the drilling projects in Kolmani at the border of Bauchi and Gombe states, when completed, will positively impact Nigerians. How, you may want to ask. In 2019, the National Oil Company announced the discovery of hydrocarbon deposits in Kolmani River well on the upper Benue Trough, the Gongola Basin in the northeastern part of the country. In 2022, the government commenced oil drilling at the area in commercial quantities, the first in the region after several crude oil explorations in the upper Benue Trough, saying it will attract foreign investments and generate employment for the people. At the time, the government said over 1 billion barrels of oil and 500 billion cubic feet of gas were found within the Kolmani area of Bauchi and Gombe. It stated that the discovery had already attracted $3 billion investment. The question, Doakbo, why was the exploration stopped at first?
Okay.
That's the question.
The reason why the exploration was stopped is because of paucity of funds, you know, from the NNPC. When you look at the same
NNPC we're just talking about, yes, now, that exactly, had so much funds that did not remit, and remitting only 50%.
Yes.
Okay.
It's because of paucity of funds. You see, I have a problem with them revisiting this Kolmani oil field, which is the northern frontier basin, you know, where they want to just discover oil at all costs. That is not what we need at the moment as a country. Because when you look at that oil field, nothing substantial has actually come out of the drilling that is there. According to the Petroleum Industry Act, Section 9, a rule was made that 30% of our oil earnings, you know, should be devoted to a piggy bank, like a piggy bank account called Frontier Fund. And so far, the NNPC has been able to actually remit funds into that account. $149.9 billion have been spent, you know, trying to make sure that they found at least a substantial deposit of oil in the Kolmani field. And, you know, it has to do with some seismic experiments. You know, it's like an X-ray. You know, when you keep digging and you keep digging to check if you can actually find deposit of crude, you know, underneath the surface of the earth. But they've not been able to find a substantial amount of, you know, crude oil. Now,
but they told us that over 1 billion barrels of oil have been found in that area. You see,
I don't think...
Do you have issues with these figures?
Yes, I have.
Now, another 500 billion cubic feet of gas was also found there. Another figure. And then saying that it will attract a $3 billion investment. That's another figure there. So playing with these figures, and then in reality, do we get to see them?
Yeah, we don't get to see them, and this is the reason. When you look at the Northern Hemisphere, you have two major projects that are of two major importance and of significance to Nigeria. You have the AKK gas pipeline. That is the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano pipeline in that same region. These two projects are being funded by NNPC. Now, the Abuja-Kano-Kaduna project, has a pipeline that carries natural gas from the southern part of Nigeria. And the stretch of that gas go as far as 640 kilometers. And that pipeline can also carry gas from Nigeria to Europe using the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, which is about 4,401 kilometer stretch, and the Trans-Nigeria gas line pipe, which is about 1,300 kilometers. Now, the planning of this gas pipeline started in 2017. What does this project, what does it hold for Nigeria? With this project, Nigeria will be able to generate 3,600 megawatts of electricity that will power millions of homes in the north. This project has the capacity to rejuvenate moribund factories in the north. This project has the capacity to earn foreign exchange for Nigeria and also expand our GDP. Now, the project started in 2017. Approval was given in December 2017. The funds needed for this project was about $2.8 billion. 85% of that project will be funded by external debt, from the Chinese bank, while Nigeria will produce 15% equity fund for this project. In 2020, we were able to secure a loan from China for this project. At the long run, the Chinese pulled out. We don't know the reason exactly. So the NNPC said to themselves that they would take over the project. So far, so good. The NNPC has spent $1.1 billion on this project, the AKK gas pipeline. The pipeline was supposed to be commissioned in 2023. Now, they said early 2025, the gas pipeline, would be ready for commissioning. This is May 13, if I'm not
May 14.
May 14. There's no commissioning of that gas pipeline.
Was there actually an AKK pipeline that was constructed?
Yes, there is. Now,
no, I'm not saying if there is a plan. Was there anyone that was constructed?
Yes.
So why has it not been inaugurated?
Thank you very much. Now, the Chinese has pulled out.
Okay.
So the NNPC is left as the sole financier of this project. Now,
is the project completed?
It's not completed yet. I'm going somewhere. Now, the NNPC needs a partner that will come into this project and invest, invest billions of dollars, in this project. People who wants to commit to this project are actually looking at the Nigerian economy. They are seeing 38% inflation. They are seeing 65% poverty indices. They feel that they will not be able to recoup back their money if they throw in their money into these projects. Don't forget, the NNPC is the one funding this AKK project. The NNPC is the one funding the oil exploration at Kolmani. Now, they need to prioritize. Which one is much more significant between the Kolmani oil field and the AKK gas pipeline that will give us immediate
returns?
Yes, because this is simple project management philosophy. You go for a project that will give you internal returns called IRR in project management. So why are they so fixated, on the Kolmani oil field that we are not even sure whether you are going to get a large deposit of crude oil that would in turn, revitalize the economy of the north? Because what I see here is a whole fixation on crude oil. You are leaving an immediate project that would jumpstart the economy of Nigeria, and you are leaving it for, oil exploration. So now the NNPC is caught in, they are distracted. because they are the one funding the Kolmani field, and they're also the one funding the AKK gas pipeline. So instead of them to give full 100% focus to the AKK gas pipeline that would generate megawatt of electricity, that would transport gas, to Europe. Because originally, if the gas pipeline had been commissioned in 2023, we would have benefited from the Russian-Ukrainian war, when Russia actually, shut out majority of countries in Europe away from their gas. So it means that you have Europeans that will come down to Nigeria to come and get gas. So the energy sector, will be productive. But alas, you find a government that is actually does not know what is supposed to be at the top of their scale of preference. So it's in economics, you have the principle of wants and the principle of choice. So is the government making the a right choice by prioritizing the oil exploration in Bauchi to the AKK gas pipeline that would expand the economy, that would generate more electricity megawatts? So
many complexities in this. So many complexities in this at this moment. But let's keep our fingers crossed and see how it unfolds. However, like you said, priority is key.
It's key.
You talked about the source of the AKK gas pipeline from the south.
Yes.
Now, well, some would also argue with you that why lift from the south and create pipelines? Why not explore and get something there in that region where
because
you don't need to?
Because it is not certain. It is not 100%. See,
but for
over 30 years.
But they are telling us, government is saying that over 1 billion barrels of crude oil.
Yeah, that is the projection of government.
Wait, there. So what was the yardstick for measurement?
Mr. Chike, hold on. This is the same government that told Nigerians that the 4 refineries are now working. The question is, are the refineries working? That is one. We all know the answer. Now, this is the same government that is coming out to say that they have, what's the data again? 50...
It said they have 1 billion barrels of crude oil. And then 500 billion cubic feet of gas.
Yeah, fine. I love that. The question is, for the past 30 years, we have been exploring in this northern basin.
Yeah.
Have we been able to find something substantial in that frontier? Because for the past 30 years, you cannot tell me. A lot of money has actually, gone into that oil exploration.
Supposedly.
In fact, the exact money that has actually gone into that project, nobody knows the actual amount till today. And they still keep digging because they are looking for oil. Something they've not found in the last 30 years. And you have a ready-made material, a ready-made raw material in gas. We do flare our gas away, and it's actually hurting the atmosphere. That's climate, affecting the climate. It's another topic entirely.
Depleting
the ecosystem, the ozone layer.
Yeah.
Now, we are harnessing this gas flaring because we have them in abundance. And we are saying, okay, let us construct a gas pipeline that will take this gas from the south to the middle of the north and beyond the north, even to Europe. And we are seeing the potential benefits of what is going to give the Nigerian economy. Abba.
Well, we'll go on this break. When we come back, more talking points on the agenda this morning. Stick around. Don't go away.
I had no doubt in my mind that with this collection, we are going to set agenda. More importantly, we are going to enforce social ethics. Because part of the problem of Nigeria is that the state is too powerful and the society is too weak. So when the state begins to misbehave, the weak society has no power to hold them into control. So we begin to do social ethicizing. So we not only report, we will not only inform, we will also set agenda.
All right, welcome back from that break. Still the agenda on Dominion Brokers Group. Before we went on that break, we're looking at the NNPC and the Oxbow Lakes within the NNPC. But now let's talk politics. Drakpo, you wrote an article recently.
Okay, that was yesterday.
Yeah, it was published yesterday in the dailies.
Yeah,
and one of what struck me most was the headline, the topic of your article. It says, the death of opposition. Now, from that topic, from that headline, what it's showing is that you have concluded that opposition is dead in Nigeria. Is that true?
Well, not much of a total conclusion. If you go through the article,
yes,
yeah, you would see that I addressed various layers, you know, in the polity. You know, I addressed from the top, you know, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You know, a lot of people are saying he's a master strategist. Yes, the strategy is working at the moment. People are defecting. But, you know, it's an old trick, you know, in an old playbook called machine politics. You know,
that's an outdated
politics, yes,
kind of politics.
Yes, it was practiced, you know, in the U.S.
But is our politics modern?
Well,
so he could be winning because it's still the same sphere,
the same sphere. But the danger of that machine politics is because it will crumble, you know, under the weight of his own. When civil awakening, you know, arises, when citizen awakening, you know, arises, just like the way it crumbled in the U.S.
Yeah, but he's just enjoying it while it lasts.
Yeah, he's enjoying it while it lasts. It is a Pyrrhic victory. It is temporary. But more so, the most damning part of that discourse in the article, you know, is laid barely at the feet of the People's Democratic Party.
Yeah, before you go ahead, you see, you wrote here, you started the article with this. It says, the strongest men fear a storm that starts with a whisper. It is in the whisper that history often finds its loudest echoes, subtle warnings of approaching tempests that the arrogant and complacent ignore. Nigeria stands at such a crossroad, its democratic balance teetering dangerously towards a one-party state. And if you listen closely, the winds are already shifting.
Yes.
That's the first paragraph. That's the lead of that article. Now, you see, so many questions. Well, when you say the wind is shifting, what wind is shifting?
The wind is shifting because the citizens are actually feeling the brunt of misgovernance, you know, in the polity. They are rallying together little by little, you know, trying to take the bull by the horn and confront the government in power. So it's a little, that's why I said the winds are actually, you know, shifting.
And then you said something. You said subtle warnings of approaching tempests.
Yes.
That the arrogant and complacent ignore. Who is the arrogant, or who are the arrogant ones? Are they complacent? What have they ignored?
Yeah, they are actually complacent because the APC as a party, as a whole, then I think the president also has this infinite confidence in his political tactics and, you know, political maneuverings, you know, and people, his co-travelers, you know, they so much depend on his political mastery. You know, it gives them this this air of arrogance, and you can actually see it, you know, in the composure, in the attitude of their supporters. Like, you know, you hear a statement like, "It's Jagaban, don't worry." So the subtle warning there is because when these heavyweights are actually, you know, gathering to a particular side, yes, you have egos, you have big figures. Of course, not everybody's interest will be served. There are some decisions that will go against certain interests. And from there, the house begins to, you know, disintegrate.
Too many captains on a ship.
On a ship.
You talked about the elite theory.
Yes.
Shed more light on the elite theory.
Yeah, the elite theory is, for me, I don't know why I'm fascinated with that theory. Probably because it's my dissertation piece at my undergraduate level. So I try to use elite theory a lot to, you know, explain so many political philosophies, so many political happenings, you know, within the polity. You know, elite theory basically refers to, you know, you have a few group of people who controls, you know, the resources of a domain. They decide who gets what, you know, when, at a particular time, you know, at their own pleasure. So they are like the guards of the realm. So power is concentrated in the hand of a few. They control the vast resources of a nation, and they determine the direction where power will shift to. So that's just
do they exist in this present
administration? Yes, they exist in this present administration. Okay. There's no administration that does not have their own.
So they even exist with the Jagaban?
Yeah, they exist. So, for example, when you go to Lagos, there's this name of this group. The
GAC.
The GAC, yes. So those are the elites. They are the ones who control the affairs of the state, you know, dictated to by one man. So you always have the elite in any sphere of life. Even in workplaces, you have the elite who dictates the pace.
Please, we'll go on this break, and when we come back, we'll continue with this discussion. Stick around, don't go away. Welcome back from that break. Still looking at this discussion here on the article written by my guest here, Charles Dolapo Anjorin, The Death of Opposition in Nigeria. We talked about the elite theory before we went on that break. All right, you've cleared the air on the elite theory, but you went ahead to say that no political party in Nigeria can play the role of opposition, yes, except the incumbent president allows that. Is that democracy?
Yeah, it's democracy. There's no total democracy anywhere in the world. It's a form of democracy. You know, when you look at the way we started, 1999, you hear people talk about government of national unity. So when you talk about government of national unity, it means you have participants from different political parties, you know, that would come and serve in that government. Example that I cited in that article is, you know, the APP's Abdul Kadir that came into the government of OBJ. You also have
Chief Bola Ige
of the AD, you know, that
became Attorney General.
Attorney General of the Federation. I think it's only Chief Bola Ige, the late Chief Bola Ige, that had the balls to actually want to leave the PDP government at some point before he met his demise, you know, for AD, because he was preparing to leave the PDP, you know, back to the AD fully without serving in the Obasanjo's government. So every other appointees, you know, stayed in that party. You also have it in this current administration. You have Nyesom Wike, you know, in this administration. So you begin to wonder, how can you have an effective opposition party when you have people, you know, serving in the ruling party's government, most especially when the ruling party is not delivering, you know, on its mandate to its citizens. And you also find the same person, you know, trying to pull down his party at all costs and make his party not to be competitive, you know, in the political arena. So these are the issues. You also have the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, of the ANPP. You know, he didn't win an election. He contested for an election, and he challenged the result. The chairman of the party, who happens to be his vice president, you know, gave a press conference and said he's dissociating the party away from the suit at the court of law, and he went ahead to negotiate with the Yar'Adua government. And at the end of the day, his son got a post of special advisor on civil relations matters. The same thing with Adamu Alero, who became the FCT minister. So you look at the trend, and you can see the reason why politically we may not be able to have a viable opposition that would hold government accountable. That is the reason why you see the likes of what's the name of this man now that is planning to do a shadow government. That's Patu Tomi. Prof. Yes, Professor Patu Tomi. You know, trying to create a shadow government to hold this government accountable. If he had had a proper opposition, you know, this issue of oil exploration at Koumani, you know, Bauchi State, the opposition would have, you know, held the government accountable and speak truth to them. Instead of course, yes, we citizens, we need to be the opposition, really, as I posited in the...
You said something here. You said we must separate politicians from institutions.
Yes.
To understand how a healthy opposition survives. A democracy cannot depend on the integrity of individuals alone. Institutions matter. But today, institutions are the opposition. Today.
They are supposed to be the opposition.
No, in Nigeria, they are seeming, you know, to be the opposition today. Institutions could be individuals. Individuals could be an institution.
No,
don't you think so?
I don't think, no. An individual cannot be an institution.
You can be an institution on your own.
Well, maybe figuratively.
Yeah.
But in political science,
yeah,
you know, you differentiate between institutions and the people. So the people who inhabit this institution, you know, in political science, you know, is known as behavioralism. You know, they are the people because the attitude they exude, you know, is the behavior towards that institution on its own. So the political party is an institution, a civil society is an institution, the National Assembly is an institution. So we have them like that. The court system, you know, they are institutions. So it is the people
who have followers, who have strong following and strong say within their political party. Do you term them as institutions?
Well, like I said, you can use them interchangeably, but, you know,
it's
relatively used. But, you know, rightly speaking, in the balance of, you know, political science, you don't really categorize an individual as, you know, an institution.
Now, the Nigerian political space has defied all odds of political science in the sense that you have the people as the institution. Are the people going to have the say in the nearest future when it comes to the political calculations of Nigeria?
Well, that is the reason why I advocate that we need to wake up to our responsibilities as people. The last 10 years has proven that building opposition around individuals have not worked. Or rightly to say political parties, it hasn't worked. Everything that the then opposition condemned in the ruling party, they've done times 10 of what they condemned, the ruling party back then. They've done times 10 of it. So what is the essence of still rallying around behind, such people? So why not take the bull by the horn? The civil society themselves, that is known as the guard dogs, of the realm, they are nowhere to be found. The people are lackluster. They are showing hopeless. They are showing that, okay, the whole situation is hopeless. The media too.
They are showing political apathy.
They are showing political apathy also. So it is high time for these institutions, civil society, media, public intellectuals, to rise up to the occasion.
Don't you see a deliberate means of gagging the whole system, the whole institutions, the whole opposition?
Yes, that is machine politics in play for you. Gag the whole system, buy the conscience of people who are supposed to speak the truth to power. State capture. That is the whole essence of machine politics. So, and like I said in the article, it's like a sandcastle, built beside the awakening of civil institutions. Once the civil institutions, is awake from their slumber, machine politics, is going to come down crumbling on its knees, under its own weight.
In 30 seconds, do we have any opposition ahead of 2027? Looking at all the shenanigans happening in political parties.
Well, at the moment, I can't find any opposition.
Will the people be the opposition?
That is what I'm hoping for. The people should be the opposition.
So it will be the people against government?
The people against government.
Thank you, Dr. Akpo and Johnny, for featuring on the agenda this morning.
It's my pleasure this morning.
All right, thank you there, listener and viewer, for joining us this morning. Let's keep this conversation going. Do follow us on all our social media platforms, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It is at Dominion Broadcast. And on the app X, it's at Dominion Cast. My name is Chike Ubogu. Do have a great day. Stay safe. Bye for now.